Join me as Eric Nelson continues talking about the umami bomb with his discussion of XO sauce.
No, this is why the theme again is umami, Asian umami flavors. They're the ones who invented this. It's sweet. It's sweet. It's salty. And then there's this extra flavor called umami. So anyway, and then the last one. Speaking of labors of love, the last one I wanted to talk about is XO sauce.
It sounds very mysterious right from the get-go.
Yeah, you'd have to go online as to why they call it XO sauce, but in the same way, I guess they call XO brandy or whatever. It's like super high end because it is high end. I will tell you that right now. And I will tell you a story the first time I had or became aware of XO sauce. I was coming back from Montauk, where I am now, on the LIE, and it was about 9:30 at night on a Sunday, and I hadn't had dinner yet. And I remembered at about exit 23, which is Main Street in Queens, there's this Chinese restaurant called like New Lake Pavilion. And it's got all these lights on it. It's like Christmas 24/7, 365. And I said, you know what? I'm going to pull off here at exit 23 or whatever, see if I can find a parking spot. I'm going to go into this place, which apparently used to be a diner and has been converted into this Chinese restaurant pavilion. So I go in there, I get a table, no problem at all. It's got typical like crappy fluorescent lighting, just everything's bad, but it's nice. It's very nice. It's very well done, right? And you got the big table, big round tables with the white tablecloths. Anyway, so I sit down, I get the menu, and one of the things on the menu that struck me right away was clams in XO sauce. So I said, I am going to have that as part of my meal, which I did. And it was freaking great. It was so good. I couldn't believe how good it was.
They didn't even bother giving it a special name like clam something. They just went right for the condiment.
No, it was clams and XO sauce. They knew what they were doing because when I went back afterwards and said, boy, this was really good, and looked up XO sauce, it is crazy. It is the high-end sauce in a Chinese, for a Chinese meal. XO sauce. So I went to look to see, how do you make it? What is an XO sauce? So I looked it up. And it is got some, you have to get dried shrimp, you have to get dried scallops, you have to get mushroom soy sauce. There's all this crazy stuff. And it takes forever. You have to get 10 shallots that have to be cut up and diced and all this other, it's garlic and you have to have 2 woks. It's completely out of control. So number one, it's expensive because things like dried scallops and dried shrimp aren't cheap. 2, it's hard to source those ingredients. It's like even if you went into an Asian supermarket, you might not be able to get mushroom soy sauce or even dried scallops, right? And then 3, it takes forever to cook this stuff, and you have to be paying attention the whole time because you have a lot of oil, you're deep frying shallots and garlic and all kinds of other stuff, and you need machines. It's crazy. But at the end of the day, you have an umami bomb. It is the atomic umami bomb. It is the most amazing glob of umami that you could ever hope for. It's expensive. It takes a long time to make it. I don't even know if you can get it in maybe you can buy it in a jar in a Asian market. I don't know. I've never really looked that hard. But anyway, this thing is crazy. So not too long ago, I use this in Western cooking just to add a little umami kind of tip to whatever I'm making. So for example, speaking of clams, a classic Portuguese dish is braised pork with clams.
Right? Sounds delicious.
It is fantastic. So you basically take a big chunk of pork belly and you brown it in a Dutch oven, right? And then you put into that maybe a can of whole tomatoes, maybe some chicken broth or whatever, and you stick it in the oven for a couple of hours until it just falls apart, right? So it's really gloppy. And then right at the end, you pour in like a dozen or 2 dozen little neck clams into this thing. And it's great. But here's what I've done is I've said, going back to my experience at New Lake Pavilion in Queens, I said, you know what? I'm going to put a couple of spoonfuls of this XO sauce in there while the pork is braising. And I'll tell you, it doesn't create an Asian meal, right? It's not an Asian dish, right? But what it does do is it creates some kind of amazing umami taste in this fabulous Portuguese meal. It is unbelievable how good it is.
Is it better than the original?
It's better than the original. It's definitely different, and it's better. And it's not like you're saying like, oh my God, you just turn this into some sort of Hong Kong, which is XO sauce is basically Southern China, so it's like a Hong Kong kind of thing. It's not creating like saying like, oh, this is an Asian meal now. This is Asian pork with clams, right? You just put like a big heaping soup spoonful of this stuff in there, and it just takes it to a different level. It's still the Portuguese meal. It's still the Portuguese dish, right? But it's somehow enhanced by this XO sauce.
Now, a question I have is, the Portuguese were great travelers around the world.
You are correct, sir.
Would not one of them have figured out this dish? You're like a man ahead and behind of your time. I mean, you're
Maybe it's like, I mean, think about it. It's like what do they call breadcrumbs in Japan? Are called panko, right?
It's actually a different type of breadcrumb than the Western breadcrumb.
Different type of breadcrumb. But what is that from? It's from the Portuguese pang, meaning bread. Right? Because they didn't have it until the Spanish and the Portuguese arrived in Japan and called it panko. They said, oh, wow, breadcrumbs. This is great. We could take a piece of meat and roll it in breadcrumbs and deep fry it. This is brilliant.
And yet,
but you're
the Portuguese...
absolutely right. I mean, maybe the Portuguese should have brought the XO sauce back from Hong Kong.
Well, empires fall for peculiar reasons, and this might be the thing that brought the Portuguese empire to its knees.